Welcome to Lyme Time. I'm Allie from the Tick Chicks. We are all more than Lyme disease and chronic illness, and together we stand with you to overcome and rise. I'll bring you closer to the experts in cutting-edge treatments and even a few unexpected ways of healing. I'll ask the questions you want answers to regarding Lyme disease and successful ways of getting you closer to 100%. We are in this together and will not be defined by Lyme. Today on Lyme Time, I am thrilled to introduce you to Sarah Quillen. Sarah is the Executive Director of ILADS, which is the International Lyme and Associated Diseases Society, and ILDEF, its sister company, and that is the International Lyme and Associated Diseases Education Foundation. An accomplished executive, Sarah brings a 25-plus year career working with nonprofits in the interdisciplinary health and human services community in the areas of leadership, fundraising, community relations, and programs. Prior to her work at ILADS, her experience included 10 years with the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization, which is an association, advocacy organization, and foundation. Quillen demonstrates decades of service and leadership nationally in the health and human services industry. She has a deep passion for the Lyme and tick-borne diseases community and works tirelessly to expand the ILADS mission and bring awareness to the countless patients living with chronic inflammatory conditions worldwide. Thank you for joining us, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And that was a mouthful. Congratulations.
It is. It's not as bad as some of the others, but it's just wonderful that you have come to working with ILADS and really representing the patients out there who have tick-borne illness. And as you know, it's just growing exponentially from year to year. It's getting a little bit out of hand. So what I wanted to do was have you be able to tell us all about the work that you are doing at ILADS and really kind of introducing us to your organization and giving us an overview of everything. But I want to start out with the mission of ILADS and what the general sense is, what you want to provide to our community.
Oh, that's a great start. And I'm really excited to be able to talk and kind of reintroduce the world to the new ILADS, I feel like. And that actually starts with our mission statement. Our board got together last year at our retreat and made the decision to update our mission statement. I mean, ILADS is celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. And in 25 years, our North Star has been constant, right? We're a nonprofit, international, multidisciplinary medical society. And we've always been dedicated to the diagnosis and treatment of Lyme, but we've also, as an organization, realized there's so much more to it. And that's why we added the complex inflammatory diseases. And we can talk a little bit more about some of the details of what that actually means. But so as a medical society, we promote awareness, we promote understanding, education of that complex inflammatory disease. And it is a mouthful, and I acknowledge anybody that can get that out in one shot. But we really are out to educate the clinician and the public on the science, the research, what's out there. We support that interdisciplinary medical community and raising those boats to educate. And I don't just mean the folks who just deal with Lyme. I mean all practitioners, the GPs, the infectious disease folks, all of the folks. Everyone needs this education that we provide. And so when the board last year updated that mission, they also kind of updated our overriding strategic goals. And all of this is on our website as well. We're very proud of this, and we want to be able to showcase this. But I mean, truly, obviously, number one priority is improve the understanding of Lyme and those other complex inflammatory diseases. But we also want to be able to review, develop, implement academic and clinical scientific research programs, all of that to enhance that understanding. And then be able to support programs and healthcare providers and all the things for this tribe that are serving the patient community, and being able to be out there and provide the best medical care that there is possible.
So would you say that your primary focus group would be the physicians and providing that extensive training to them?
Yeah, so that's an interesting distinction. I think that that one of the many things that sets ILADS apart. We're a medical society, right? So if you want to go into tax terms, we're a 501c6, which means we're an association, and our primary focus and our primary purpose is to serve those clinicians, and be able to make sure that they are equipped with the best education, the most up-to-date research and technology and all the things to be able to provide the best care to patients. What it translates to is obviously the patient level. They want to be able to serve the patients. And so yes, as a medical society, that absolutely unapologetically is our primary focus. And I've only been here a year, but I'm fiercely protective of all those clinicians and the work that they do. I love to be able to take credit for some of the things, but it's just some amazing work that they're all doing.
So how many, well, first of all, do the physicians, once they go through this training, do they get certified as an ILADS certified doctor or something? Do they have a distinction?
So that's a great question. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions that's out there. There's no Lyme certification. There are several components to ILADS training. And I do want to make one distinction. It's not just doctors that are members. We have a whole cadre of clinicians. We've got MDs, we've got osteopaths, we've got naturopaths. It kind of runs the gamut of allopathic and naturopathic. And so to that end, the education that we offer, and I can talk a little bit more about our signature offerings in a minute, but all of that education is really around, what do you hear? You always hear this Lyme literate. That's always a phrase that people are always showing. And I think it's a great term, but ILAD sort of sees that as the bare minimum, if you will. To be Lyme literate, that's just a small portion of the care and feeding that we provide. And your readers get this, or excuse me, your listeners will get this, and you probably very much understand this. It's never just Lyme. There's always a whole host of other things underlying. There's Babesia, there's Bartonella, there's all kinds of things that rear their lovely ugly head. And this is where the complex disease comes in. It's because it's never just one thing. We kind of feel like that Lyme literate is truly just a baseline. And so we start with that and then go up from there with some of our signature offerings. And I'm happy to talk at will of all of those things.
Yes, absolutely. And we will get into that as well, because I have so many questions. But quickly, I'd like to know how you became part of ILADS and your own sort of personal journey and mission, and what led you to really your passionate work for the company.
Oh, absolutely. I will do my best to be short about this, because I can talk all day long about this. So I grew up in upstate New York. I'm from Poughkeepsie, and we grew up up in the fields and the whole thing in tick land, right? And didn't really think much of it, and then went to college, and as you said earlier, thank you for my pedigree. Most of my career has been in hospice and palliative care, and I absolutely believe and understand and see the comparisons between end of life care and the interdisciplinary team approach to the care of the patient and the family. That whole entire care unit is crucial. And so I came to ILADS through my professional network, and my predecessor was retiring, and they went through a big search and a long process. And I had been kind of familiar with ILADS, but not much. And the familiarity came from my family experience. I, to my knowledge, have not been been bitten by a tick and affected by it, but my father has. And over many years, he's probably gone through 5 or 6 bouts of Lyme disease. And I this is where I cannot state how important it is to do your tick checks when you come in from outside. First, to dress appropriately, to take all the precautions that you can, but then do the tick checks. And luckily, almost every time my father or my mother caught it on him, and they were able to. They had a great infectious disease doctor that was able to treat, except for the last time. The last time he went undiagnosed, and he had, usually all the typical symptoms, right? He had the achy joints, the fever, the lethargy, all those things. And so he knew enough to go, oh, wait, this is not right. I don't feel right. Let me go to the doctor. So he was able to act quickly on it, and had a good doctor that listened and understood and dealt with. But one last time, he was feeling some issues, but test didn't come up. It didn't come out. So, all right, I must be just getting old or such. Anyway, long story longer, we found that he had babesia, that was basically masking the Lyme on top of it. So he kind of had a double whammy. And and this was several years ago now, and I still think he's suffering the effects of it, because it went so long undiagnosed, and the treatment was really pretty hard and took a long time. And so, so my own family experience kind of made me aware more so of the need that's out there for general practitioners. I mean, any kind of person in a clinical setting, getting just the basics of what this can mean. And sometimes the basic symptoms that you see, there's other things underlying that. So that's kind of how I came to ILADS. And the other really cool thing that I kind of bring to this role, I mean, again, my experience has been in marketing and fundraising and promoting and program development and all the kind of boring admin stuff that's necessary. And I'm coming to this organization that's been around for now 25 years and has been working quietly in the trenches. And that will just not do for me. I am not a quiet soul. I want to be able to shout this kind of thing from the rooftop. So being able to have now the opportunity to really like sit on the shoulders of these giants that have been practicing in the trenches and be able to showcase their work loudly, is just I don't know, it's kind of a dream come true, oddly, for me.
Wow. And your father must be so proud. And not only that, you're sort of fighting on his behalf. And I think that's so important. I try to bring experts onto this podcast that have some sort of personal connection with Lyme disease. And inevitably, somebody always does, and remarkably, but it's important. And I think it's so important to those suffering from Lyme disease to find a doctor that has some sort of experience with it, personal experience, whether it's a family member or themselves. And of course, I'll repeat the famous saying, you don't get it until you really get it. You don't get Lyme disease until you actually get it. And then you really understand it. And I just love talking to physicians that have that internal reference in their mind, and that they can actually really relate. Because if they don't, I often have followers that are really trying to search for that doctor that truly understands, because it as you know, the disease can kind of morph and look different. It's like a chameleon so many times, and the doctor may just get exhausted or confounded. And that is what happened to my own personal physician. I think she thought I was crazy because I was going in there and she would refer me out to different specialists in the whatever was going on with me at the time in my body, and we just weren't getting answers. And funny enough, I went back to her. I then went off on a different path when I did discover it was Lyme disease, and I went off on a different path. And then I came back to her. I was visiting the doctor with a child of mine, and she goes, "And by the way, how are you feeling?" And I said, "I'm getting there, I said, "I did discover it was Lyme disease." She goes, "Oh, yeah." She goes, I did, I took a class in that." It's like it was some sort of a way off remark. And I don't hold anybody responsible for not knowing exactly what Lyme disease is. But, that is where I think as patients, we're really searching for these ILADS doctors that have an understanding or care enough to learn further. And so I want to go into that topic of physician training, because when somebody says they're ILADS or have been trained or certified or whatever that the terminology would be, basically they don't get a certification as I understand it. They just have attended some maybe your conference or that kind of thing. So I want to go into that. Where do these doctors come from? How many do you serve every year? What does that training look like specifically?
That's a great question. And before I delve into that, I want to come back a little bit to your comment about finding an ILADS doctor who maybe has had Lyme or related disease. And that was probably one of the most surprising things in my coming to ILADS. I have had so many conversations, one-on-one conversations with ILADS members. And I always ask them, just like you asking me, like, how'd you get into this? Or how'd you find ILADS? And more often than not, it's because their own journey took them through really the awful experience that I think so many patients have had of this, like, I'm not crazy, I really have something, but it's not diagnosed, and I don't know what to do. And this increased empathy, I think, is what ILADS members bring to their own practices. And I'm not saying that other practitioners are not empathetic, absolutely, but because they have had this individual experience, it brings them to a whole nother level of care and feeding of their patients and patients. And I mean with a CE, not a patient, because they realize if they're trying some things, it doesn't work, they try something else, they look holistically at the patient, understanding that it's not just pharmaceutical fixes. There's going to be all kinds of therapies that they're going to be able to need, and maybe some novel treatments that they're going to need that aren't FDA approved, but willing to try. And I think that brings a whole new level to the ILADS clinician. And I just think that's just amazing. And so then where we kind of come in and give that further component is in the education. And I'll say our signature offerings that ILADS gives is our vector-borne illness fundamentals. And it's so well named because it's fundamentals. It's the basics of diagnostics and testing and treatment, and goes into all the things from pharmaceuticals to herbals to hyperbaric things. I mean, it's all kinds of, it runs the gamut. It's generally an 8-hour course that we offer at our annual scientific conference. We try to offer it one other time a year if we can do like a regional conference. Last year we were in Hershey, Pennsylvania. We try to do something. This year we're also going to be in outside Munich, Germany in April doing the fundamentals. And then there's also the virtual offerings for that as well. And the modules are really set up for any level of clinician, from the PA all the way up to the MD and even the PhD researcher if they're interested in this kind of thing. And it literally runs the gamut of all things vector-borne. And so that's sort of the crucial first piece, I feel like, to ILADS training. The second piece to that is our physicians training program. And once you've completed fundamentals and maybe you've come to one of our conferences, you've come to, you've listened to some of our webinars, you want to go that next step, then there's the physicians training program. And in all honesty, I think we're gonna work on changing the name a little bit, because that's a little bit of a misnomer as well. It's not just for MDs. We're really trying to make sure we offer the gamut to osteopaths, to nurse practitioners, to naturopaths. We're looking at trying to expand that out, and really the key is if you're actively seeing Lyme patients, we want to be able to offer this curriculum to you. And the physician training program is super hands-on, and I think this is truly one of our signature pieces. It includes shadowing with one of our preceptors, one of our training physicians or naturopaths. There's virtual cases, there's in-person cases. There's several different sessions that they'll go through. There's all kinds of different shadowing. There's different case presentations. We're really trying to encourage those trainees to then go further with it and give a presentation at one of our grand rounds style webinars. Do all kinds of education furthering. And so that's really the second key component to ILADS education. And then beyond that, I'm really kind of happy I'm sort of gonna lift the lid off. It's a little early, but I feel like I can talk about it. We are creating a fellowship program, and I'm super excited by this. This has been a labor of love with our board of directors and our leadership for much longer than I've been around. And I feel so lucky to be at the end of that, where we can get to launch it this year. But that's the next stage of training for folks, and that's really going to set the leadership apart in ILADS training, I feel like. And then beyond that,
what will that look like for you?
So the fellowship program, we kind of have a point system that we're creating right now for qualification, meaning, so say you've been an ILADS member, each year of ILADS membership equals like 1 point or something. And then in addition to that, attending conferences, attending webinars, giving presentations at ILADS functions and outside ILADS training as well. Just to digress for 2 seconds, I'm a huge proponent of all educational opportunities. And ILADS has certainly not cornered the market on this. There's lots of different certificate programs out there, and different practitioners are offering some really fabulous courses. I know you've had Rich Horowitz and Tom Warcroft, and Global Lyme Alliance does some training. I mean, there's all kinds of different really great education out there. And I'm a big proponent of, if you really want to be in this field and do well by your patients, do all of it. Do absolutely all of it.
Absolutely.
So coming back to our fellowship, we offer certain points for all of those different kind of outside ILADS training and such. And then leadership. We want you to demonstrate your investment in ILADS and ILADF proper. Do you sit on a committee? Have you been on the board? Have you been part of planning webinars? Have you given presentations? All those kinds of things. And then, are you doing any research? Are you furthering the vector-borne illness research narrative out there? What are you doing to further this cause and really be a trailblazer in this? And so once you get that point system done, then there's a whole process of there's an evaluation, there's a quiz you'll probably take, there's a test, things like that. So
that's great. It's kind of like a star system.
Exactly.
Or just a way to sort of really set those that are truly committed to the process apart and give them the recognition that they deserve.
Exactly.
And I think that's really so important. And I love that. I love that because they deserve that. They deserve it because this is on the precipice of getting a lot of national, I believe, and international coverage. I feel as though Lyme disease has always, and tick-borne illness has always existed, but what has come out in the last 10 years, five years even just having certain recognitions from the CDC in terms of long haulers, if you will, whatever you want to call it. And, I personally call all tick-borne illness, to a real novice, it's all Lyme disease. And so when I say Lyme disease, that's what but it's not technically, but it's just going to help so many people out there and provide something to set these doctors apart. So I love that personally because I know you have physician referrals, and that's a big part of what I try to tell people who are actively looking in their remote areas. And thank goodness that there's so much virtually offered to our people nowadays, but that they are looking for that kind of a doctor that gets it. They don't need to bring them up to speed or anything else. It's incredible. And so you mentioned your conference once a year, and that just happened in October, right? So is it every October? And it's also open, am I right, that it's open to the public as well?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, you, if you can help out, we do invite folks to help volunteer, and then we'll work with them if they want to attend a specific session. It's a scientific conference, so it is chock full of clinicians and researchers, and there's CME involved, and there's all kinds of things. And so it is pretty highly technical. That's why we call it the scientific conference. And yes, we just had it in Boston, and I would love to take credit for the incredibly robust agenda, but the program committee team that labored over putting this program together really came up with an absolutely phenomenal program. And so this year in 2024, we're going to be in San Antonio, Texas, and yes, we always do it in the fall. It's going to be November 4th through 10th, somewhere in that neighborhood this year. And it's really, we're joining the fusion of science and practice. So it's bringing some of the fantastic research that is out there now. And to come back to your point earlier, talking about in the last like 5-10 years, there's been huge strides made. And I mean, for better or for worse, I think COVID has helped open a huge door for this work and for truly the understanding of this complex issue. And it really has, I mean, just some amazing research that's happening that you may or may not even know about, that's happening in the trenches. And we want to be able to showcase that, but then also help the Monday morning quarterback, right? We have this wonderful cadre of researchers and clinicians, and we want to make sure we're serving both components of the attendees of that conference. So I might be a clinician and I see patients all day long. What the heck do I care about research that's not going to even touch my front door for a couple of years? And it's really bringing that fusion together. So we're really taking a new tack on making sure that we humanize the research, if that's a phrase. We make sure that the researcher can translate the work that they're doing to that clinician. And here's why you need to care about it, and here's what it's going to do to help you.
And are there any kind of incentives for physicians? How do you reach out to physicians in order to invite them to come to the conference?
So this is huge. I mean, we have obviously our primary membership that we mail out to, but we have this fantastic mailing list of clinicians, of folks who have accessed our clinician provider search and have agreed to give us like their emails and their information, and we make sure that we send that information out. One of my big priorities and something I believe so wholeheartedly in is collaboration and partnership. So I am on this mission to reach out and make connections with other clinical associations, other other Lyme groups in the states and regions and such, and really make that connection with them to help each other. Like, obviously, we want to be able to have you, get our information out to your members and such, but this is not a one-way street. What can we do to help you? And this two-way conversation has really been, I've been very lucky to be part of these conversations, and especially, I'll give the example when we were in Boston. There's several very specific Lyme organizations that are state and region wide, and just having some of those initial conversations of, hey, will you be able to get the word out on this? But, oh, wait, I'm not done. What can we do for you? How can we showcase the work that you're doing and help each other? And that's been really fantastic. And that I've had good luck in my past positions and past lives in doing those kind of collaborations, and I wholeheartedly believe it now. So I'm on truly a mission to be able to get the word out to other clinicians through their associations, through other groups that they're part of, and through just this wonderful network of community practitioners and researchers.
That's great. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what piques your interest in looking back on 2023 and looking forward into 2024 and beyond. What's exciting that ILADS is uncovering or researching or excited to see on the forefront of Lyme disease?
So I'll come back actually to my talking about collaborations and partnerships. I continually am in awe of some of the work that's being done, like Laura McNeil at Global Lyme Alliance and Noah Johnson at Project Lyme. There's some really fantastic work that they're already doing that ILADS doesn't need to redo. Let's just work with them and see how we can make all of our voices louder. So I really see those partnerships really growing in 2024, and I'm most excited, I think, to have more of those conversations. And I don't even know where they'll lead. That's the other fun part. In talking with some of the international organizations recently, you just kind of go in with an open mind and like, what can we do together? I don't know. What are the gaps that you have that we can work with, and vice versa. And some really kind of cool, interesting things are coming out of that. So I really see that being a big draw in 2024. Also, I mean, again, coming back to, we're a medical society first and foremost, and I want to take care of my members. I want to take care of my tribe. I want to make sure that we are giving them the care and feeding that they need, and that we're reaching out to new practitioners, maybe folks who are newer in this field, just coming into the field. Let's get you into ILADS, and let's get your feet wet, and really get you to understand what we have to offer and what our capabilities are. So I really, that's going to be it already is a huge focus for me. Then one of the you look at our mission statement, and it's education and research, and that's the other kind of cool part, that I see some phenomenal research happening in other organizations and some universities, and I absolutely love that. So where ILADS is going to kind of fit into that niche, we're going to do what we can to gather some of those data points. So we want to be a repository of patient data, so that when someone wants to do their research, we have this cadre of data points already existing. And we're still formulating that right now. We're working with a whole group of true experts that are well beyond my education background, but I just sit in awe and listening to them go within ILADS, talking about how do we want to do this? Do we want to let it grow organically? How flexible do we want to be in the data points that we want to gather? But the crux of it is, there's this need for patient data on a much larger scale than I think anybody's ever done. And who but ILADS, that has these clinicians with the data already there, let's gather that and let's be able to get that out and be able to help folks with it. So I see those are a couple of the big things happening this year that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that would be so helpful to just start that and have it go on indefinitely, and every year adding to it, new patients coming on. Maybe it's just a form that they can fill out online that's talking about how long they've had their symptoms and what that those symptoms look like. And also it could really help laboratories when they're developing testing and whatnot to understand exactly who was not able to get proper testing because of finances and things like that. So I see that going in so many different directions, and certainly, and also kind of exciting. You're going to be doing some work, or at least holding one of the conferences in Germany, which I find fascinating because they, as you know, in Europe are trying all kinds of things that we're not able to try exactly yet in the United States. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you're finding over there and what you're hearing back from some of those doctors, if their uh, research is to be emulated here somehow in the United States. I know of a lot of people that have resorted to going overseas to getting some new treatment for that chronic or post-treatment Lyme disease disorders. Um, and and lastly, I just want to talk about fundraising. And I know this is one of your areas of passion. And what is it when somebody donates to ILADS? Where is their money going? How much have you raised? What are you currently raising money for?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked that. So, so one of the big things, so our ILADS, which is the Education Foundation, that's the 501(c)(3), and that's the fundraising mechanism for ILADS. Excuse me. So all donations that come in through ILADS, and the sole purpose of that is to be able to help education, help with furthering some of this research. So the big thing, so if you make a donation, actually over 85 cents of every dollar goes straight back into the efforts that we're doing. I'm very excited about being able to say that, because I mean, the challenges that we have, we're a very small but mighty team internally, and we do everything on a shoestring, and it's impressive how much we can get accomplished with the duck swimming underwater. So with every donation that we get, we really reinvest that into the clinical community. And so most of the money that we raise goes to grants for clinicians to attend education. So it's to get them to fundamentals. It's to get them to the physician's training program and to the conference, and to access our online learning. I mean, some of these folks, they're coming from super rural areas, or they're coming from international. We actually had a physician come to Texas for the physician's training program from Romania. There's no way she would have been able to pay for that on her own, and we were extremely lucky, in my opinion, to be able to offer these kind of grants to be able to get her here and take this training and understand and really help further the ILADS work. So in different project land of research, this is really a kind of the one-off. We don't have a huge budget, obviously. ILADS is not a very big organization. We're under $1 million. And if you know anything about research, I mean, some of the organizations that I know you've spoken with, right? They take huge money. So I always feel like, well, we're really small in that. But if there's a researcher with a really good concept that they're not going to be able to do the NIH application or that kind of such, we have some seed funding that we're able to help with that. And actually, again, some of the big campaign that we're working on, that we will be working on, is this data gathering effort. We have a couple of donations that have sort of planted the seed to get this up and running. And so we're going to be able to figure out how to gather this data and what kind of repository to put it in, and then how can we get it back out to the folks who want to actually do the research. So that's one of our big initiatives. But really, truly, I mean, we are mission simple. It's education and research. That's really where we live.
That's that's good enough, because we need it all. We need all the help we can get. I'm hoping that some of when you speak about doctors or physicians or healthcare workers coming over from Romania, for example, that they're somehow put in your physician referral as well, because um, I get a lot of questions from people from other countries that really, that their countries still don't even acknowledge Lyme
Yeah.
disease, and they're really, really suffering out there. So I know your physician referral service is great. I often refer people there. So
Oh, wonderful.
now, hopefully with the new rankings, the board certifications, if you will, but the fellowship program that you have, they'll be able to find some really good ones out there, and ones that are really, really committed to this. So very important stuff. And thank you so, so much, Sarah, for coming and visiting and talking and chatting and enlightening us today. I'm very excited about everything that you've had to say, and about your commitment to our physicians. I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there are thinking to themselves, how can I get my doctor to one of these conferences? Because they're just trying to get them to understand, and really just trying to, you don't want to leave. A lot of times people don't want to leave their doctor because they've been with them for years, but they simply don't have that further education. And speaking from somebody that was not diagnosed for 6 years on the West Coast, nobody ever asked me where I had traveled or anything else. So we think it doesn't exist on the West Coast, but it actually really does, and it's becoming more rampant, especially in Northern California. And our doctors just really don't understand that you can go and contract it somewhere else and bring it back, and that now it's actually endemic to the area. So it's an ongoing thing. And I love our discussion today, and I hope that you will pop in from time to time to tell us the latest and greatest with ILADS, because I'm a big fan, and big fan of Casey Kelly and everybody there. I've had them all, and I can't wait to feature more of your doctors on my podcast.
Well, that's where I actually want to express my gratitude and fangirl a little bit to you, Allie, because I am so excited that you have this platform, and you have a wonderful population of dedicated listeners and followers, and you have been able to use this platform to get the word out so much wider than maybe any of us could have done combined. And you have had ILADS leaders on your podcast, and you offer them as resources, and I commend you for that effort, because I'm sure it hasn't been easy for you, and I'm sure it hasn't been. I mean, I know a little bit of your whole journey, and so you're able to bring that perspective to your listeners, and be able to go like, okay, well, here's some of the challenges that I had to deal with that I don't want you to have to deal with, and I think that's huge. And I think for any new person, coming in off the street that doesn't feel right, that they may have some, something, but you have to be your own health advocate. That's always a key. So I absolutely commend you in this work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know what I have to say, and before I had this conversation with you, I had just a basic knowledge of ILADS. And I was surprised to learn that you are incorporating homeopathic and naturopathic caregivers in your program, because I assumed wrongly that it was really all allopathic or functional or integrative, to a certain extent. And I'm so pleased, because really it's going to take everybody working together in all different areas. And as you know, you get so much symptom relief from so many other areas that are outside that Western medicine formula. So I'm happy to hear that, because I really did incorporate a lot of everything into my own journey. So anyway, thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it. And everybody can find her at ILADS. And is there any other place that they might reach out or see what your findings are?
You are always welcome to reach out to me. I welcome the opportunity. Yeah, if you go to ilads.org, you have my email, you have my, our contact. You go on social media, we're at ilads.lyme for Facebook, Instagram, all that. So yes, thank you. Please reach out. Absolutely.
Will do. All right. Thank you again.
Thank you, Allie. Take care.
You too.